Hello everyone, P. McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap, this time taking a look at my Week 8 match against Queen Eyelene and the Mad Hatterines in the XPDLA. As it stands, I am currently 6-1, looking to finish my season strong during these last two games and try and secure a first round playoff bye. As it stands, I have also secured myself a playoff appearance. Something between, I believe it's the fourth and first seed, but I'm trying to claim one of the top two seeds so that I can secure myself a first round bye. I believe I just need to win a match of any quality. So something as small as a 1-0 victory in either of these final two games, and that will guarantee me at least second seed and thus a first round bye. So I'm trying to finish the season strong and looking to do it here against Queen Eyelene. But before we get into this match, we're going to take a look at the options that she had available to her and the pieces I brought to best address that. So she's got Reuniclus. Don't think it's coming. I think it has a really bad matchup, specifically because Muck just can shut that down. It's very reliant on Focus Blast to get past Muck, and that only has 8 PP. So a couple of misses or an AV Muck, and it just doesn't go anywhere. Tapu Koko, much scarier, has access to Grass Knot, so it can start to threaten Gastrodon unless I'm investing myself in a specific way to deal with that. Good pivoter, good with specs, good with band. Just a lot of things it can do that are very potent if I make a wrong guess early in the game. Mega Garchomp, very, very scary. Normally, something like him could have been walled out by like a Skarmory, but his access to Flamethrower or Fire Blast and that 120 special attack stat just makes Skarmory a really unreliable answer when you know they're going to bring the Garchomp and you know the Garchomp can sweep you once it gets past a Skarmory. So I just know it's going to carry coverage for something like Skarmory, and so defensively addressing Garchomp is going to be a problem. Zarude, not super scared of Zarude. I expect it'll probably find itself choice locked again. Zarudes tend to do that, where they end up with a Scarf or a Band very often. The 105 speed tier is very nice, and it probably wants to be able to get past Mega Diancie. Otherwise, Mega Diancie just doesn't care about Zarude all that much, and Zarude doesn't stop it from sweeping. So I'm expecting something like a Scarf set on Zarude if it shows up. Heatran, normally not too scared of it. The big thing, if it shows up, is trying to scout for an item because Power Herb Solar Beam is a very effective way to remove Gastrodon from play. You try to click Magma Storm on an expected Gastrodon switch in, trap the Gastrodon, and then click Solar Beam to remove it from play. And I am going to want Gastrodon for several things. So scouting out Heatran's item as early as possible and confirming it's not Solar Beam with the Power Herb setup is going to be crucial. Toxapex, very solid defensively, not in a great spot to avoid 2-hit KOs from Mega Diancie. It basically needs to be max special defense, max HP to get out of 2-hit KO range. And so Toxapex is going to struggle to defensively address the Diancie in this matchup. And so I will be curious to see what kind of Toxapex may show up to deal with that. Virizion, not overall a great bring, struggles heavily to deal with Skarmory and Rotom Heat, so I'm not expecting it to be there, but it may show up. Zapdos will likely come just because of its value, but it has a really hard time breaking the combination of a Rotom Heat, a Gastrodon, and a Blissey. I expect if it shows up, it may try to do some things like Toxic, because I will very expectedly switch in with something like Gastron a lot of the time, or Rotom Heat a lot of the time on Zapdos, so I could see some kind of Toxic stall sets emerging to try to break that. And then Miltank, not really expecting Miltank to be here, but what, good rocker, good coverage moves. Heal Bell if he expects me to be flinging a lot of status around. So it'll be curious to see what kind of Miltank shows up if it decides to. But overall, not too scared of what it's trying to do. And then those are the pieces he had. The way I was looking to address it primarily, you're going to see a lot of familiar faces and some familiar strategies here. Dragapult, I am opting not to outspeed timid Coco. I am playing on the expectation that Coco is going to go modest because modest Coco still outpaces Diancie and timid Coco does not naturally catch Dragapult. So it's not my expectation it's going to want to run timid unless it's trying to aggressively call that I don't fully invest my speed EVs, and at which point credit to her for that prediction. So I'm speed creeping a little bit to give my special attack a little more power so that I can run modest. Leftovers, Infiltrator in case of subs because I don't see any webs to be concerned about. Scald, Hex, Thunderwave, and Substitute. I played around with the status moves a lot. I liked the ability for Thunderwave to shut down a couple of their special attackers, I believe, or Thunderwave to shut down something like Zarude or Heatran. To shut down Toxapex was also huge because if I was, for whatever reason, in trouble of not being able to break Toxapex, being able to paralyze it can at least allow some shenanigans to occur where Blissey might be able to, hacks its way through on seismic toss spam because it keeps getting caught by paralysis. Things like that where it could benefit me. Zarude because I expected it to be Scarf, and so if I could paralyze it, then it's not able to address Diancie anymore. And then I still have Scald as a way to try to get some burns on things like Garchomp or things like Zapdos so that I could hex them as well. But overall, just trying to spam status and get some hex going. This isn't my only status setter, so I have other ways of generating status as well beyond Dragapult. So I feel like a hex deck can really take advantage of a lot of things. The Mega Diancie with the Diancite, obviously. Speed invested to outspeed, I believe it was not Zarude actually, but the Virizion. Yeah, the Virizion because I need to actually outspeed that just on the off chance it shows up. Otherwise, max special attack, extra little bit thrown in HP. Earth Power to address a lot of things like Heatran, Toxapex, Tapu Koko. Otherwise, just stab with the Moonblast and Power Gem because those hit a lot of things. And then Rock Polish to sweep with because I don't naturally outspeed Tapu Koko, and I expect something like Zarude or even Heatran will be scarfed as a way to try to stop it. And so I'm playing with that expectation as well that I may need a speed boost to clean out this game. Gastrodon, I debated a lot of different Gastrodon sets. I almost ran a Floatstone set because Floatstone halves your weight, which is really relevant for Grass Knot, which is Coco's only real way of breaking a Gastrodon. So I debated going with that set as a way to shut it down. But ultimately, I need Gastrodon as my one reliable check to Garchomp because the way my team is, Garchomp is having a very difficult time running Swords Dance. It's basically locked into Scale Shot for the speed boost so that it can get past Dragapult and Diancie. Earthquake as its most reliable stab option. Flamethrower or Fire Blast as a way to get past Skarmory and then Stone Edge as a way to reliably hit Rotom Heat. There isn't room there for Swords Dance, and if he wants to run Swords Dance, then something like Rotom Heat's in a position to revenge kill it more reliably. And so I'm playing on that expectation. I have enough defensive investment to reliably be in 3-hit KO range for Earthquake, giving me a little bit of Spadef to play with. Um, Recover, which is just to get health back, obviously. Ice Beam specifically for the Garchomp. Earthquake is good general stab all around. Hits things like Heatran really hard, hits things like Coco really hard. Opting for Earthquake just in case Coco is for some reason a calm mindset, so I'm not unable to do damage to that. And then Mircoat as just an option to hit something hard late game, maybe something like a Hurricane on a Zapdos in case that's where the game goes. Debated running Toxic, but I didn't see that being effective just because he had a really reliable switch out in the Toxapex. So I didn't expect that to take off, and I didn't feel a need to run it. Blissey with the Soft Boil, Seismic Toss, Toxic, because again, Dragapult does really well if it can spam Hex, and I wanted to be able to do something positive to the uh, Garchomp as well as be able to put a Zapdos on a timer because Blissey wants to come in on Zapdos a lot because I'm not scared of the toxic spam from it. And then aromatherapy, just because I expect something like Zapdos could be toxic stall to try to push through some of the checks that might normally shut it down. So if it expects a Gastrodon or a Rotom Heat to switch in, it can normally toxic them, and all of a sudden they're on super limited timers. Blissey helps get around that a little bit, so I'm trying to use Blissey in that way. Muck, running a Shuckaberry because I'm trying to bait out a Garchomp on a revenge kill to click Earthquake because with the Shuckaberry I take like 65-ish% from an Earthquake. Knockoff, Ice Punch will nearly one-hit KO, which isn't the end of the world because at the very end you'll see I have Shadow Sneak, and Shadow Sneak with Ice Punch will pretty reliably KO a Garchomp, and the combination of them is likely to also generate some kind of toxic status. So I'm feeling pretty good about my chances to shut that down. And then Poison Jab is a way to just pretty much one-hit KO Tapu Koko. And then finally rounding out the team is the Rotom Heat. I believe it is speed invested to Yeah, speed invested to creep past uninvested mill tanks. So if a mill tank is just full bulk, I think I maybe gave it a few extra points as well. I sneak past the mill tank, so base 100s essentially. I'll get past things like Heat Train naturally, unless he's also very heavily speed invested. But I'm not too worried about that. Otherwise, some good investment in special attack, and then some very strong HP investment so that I'm in a good position to survive Stone Edge, except for obviously a critical, or if somehow Garchomp is running Swords Dance and Stone Edge, though I'm not too worried about that. Hidden Power Ice, again, for Garchomp. Discharge to Fish for Paralysis, just good overall damage. Pain Split to get health back, and Nasty Plot. Opting not to run Overheat. Really, Overheat only hit for good damage was the Zarude, but I'm not in a great matchup 1v1 against Zarude anyway, so I'm not really seeing the much benefit from having Overheat, so I opt instead to just have Discharge and Ice, Hidden Power Ice as my coverage moves. So that's the team. That's what I assembled. That's what I'm generally going for here. I don't see myself being able to wall long term, so I'm trying to bait out a couple of things and hit him hard immediately. Muck's in a position to one hit KO or nearly one hit KO the Garchomp if it forces its way in. Rotom can do a massive amount of damage to it. And then Blissey is kind of serving as a cleric role to keep my team healthy from Toxic Stall because that does threaten to whittle me down. And then Dragapult and Diancie are in positions to close out the game once a couple of pieces are removed or weakened. So that's what I had. We're going to dive into this battle. I'll keep it on normal speed for now, and then I'll make some pauses as necessary. I'm going to opt for a Rotom Heat lead. I look at the team that she has brought. There isn't really anything to threaten Rotom Heat on turn one that would really scare me. If Garchomp leads, I want to be able to do immediate damage, so Hidden Power Ice feels good. Anything else, I am going to absorb pretty much all of their stab attacks pretty well. Maybe Toxapex with a water attack, but Toxapex has no really relevant attacking stats, so I'm not too worried about the damage output. So I lead on into Coco, feel good about that scenario. Feel good about my ability to click Discharge because he's going to be afraid, or she's going to be afraid to bring in the Garchomp, I assume. And so Zapdos comes in, Heart switches out immediately. Heatran comes in. I expected something like Rocks could go up. As you can see, my team isn't overly fragile to Rocks. I've smartly decided to go back to the reliable boots on Rotom Heat, and everything else is taking 12% or less from the Rock. So they're not really threatening me unless I have to do a lot of pivoting in this game. Getting some decent chip early on Zarude. I opt to stay in because I don't have a good switch in on any predict, and Blissey is the least essential piece I feel on my team in case I get a wrong guess. And so I don't want to take any sort of gamble that I end up with a bad situation where maybe it clicks Power Whip on a predicted Gastrodon switch in, or it clicks Close Combat on a Muck switch in, or any sort of Darkest Lariat on a uh, Dragapult switch in. So I'm trying not to take huge risks at this stage, and she is just pivoting around a lot, so that's playing to my advantage. Toxapex comes in, so my Toxic is wasted, but at least I know Pex is there, and she wants to use Pex in a more offensive manner because it goes for a liquidation. Doesn't do a ton, so I'm going to safely Nasty Plot there, not expecting to die, which I don't, and I have Pain Split, so I get a pretty free Pain Split on something because my health is pretty low. I get to force out the Heatran, and then the Heatran's basically forced to sack itself. She comes in with Coco. In retrospect, this is probably a mistake. Zarude can kill with Darkest Lariat at this range. It might be a roll or it might just be guaranteed. I don't know that she calced it to be sure. Otherwise, nothing else wants to come in because nothing else is going to kill Rotom safely. And Rotom's at a really high special attack stat right now. So it just scares out everything because it can threaten to one hit KO it. So Coco comes in, really happy to see Coco in. I know Coco isn't going to one hit KO me. I know that she doesn't have a good switch in, so I'm just going to safely click Pain Split again, get even more health back. And now this Garchomp's in a really good range for my Hidden Power Ice to KO it. Unfortunate for her that she only got 2 hits. She needed all 5, I believe, to KO Rotom, so I wasn't too surprised that I survived just by a larger margin than I expected. And then, Zarude comes in, Darkest Lariats, like I said before. I did 47. I had 50% when I had KO'd the Heatran, so chances are that roll would have killed me. And so it was just a missed opportunity to remove Rotom Heat, and she lost Garchomp in that exchange. So really benefits me. Takes out Garchomp, which was a huge problem for my team to address just because I basically everything I had needed to be able to address Garchomp in some manner so it couldn't just set up its sweep. So having that out early really frees me up to start playing a trade-off game because I have my best offensive pieces still in the back and she's already lost her best one. So Muck comes in. Muck has a really good time to click moves. Clicks knockoff because I expect to switch out. Gets the poison touch. Nearly KO Zapdos, but gets it low enough in range that this Shadow Sneak becomes helpful and relevant and is able to score that KO. Toxapex comes in here. Immediately switches out. Not quite sure what the plan was there. I think she was just trying to bait me out on the expectation I couldn't kill Toxapex, but I was more than happy just to continue to click knockoffs because that just does lots of damage. Takes away whatever that item was because I don't drastically need Muck in this point of the game anymore. I'm pretty confident with between the pieces I have left, I can easily handle whatever that Coco set is because I have Toxic to play with. So it can't really set up. It can't really break Blissey. And then the Sarude is going to be a problem, obviously. I'm still worried about it, but I'm pretty confident at this stage it's Scarfed. So I'm not super nervous about it. And then I knock it off and take away what is the choice Scarf. Do get a poison as well. Very unfortunate for them. Go for a U-turn to just pivot out. I go for Poison Jab, doesn't do anything relevant to Toxapex because it doesn't care. And then Zarude comes back in, just a little too excessive on the switching around. And then the spamming is just starting to get to the Zarude. Zarude goes down. Coco comes in. I still have a 100. I'm not invested in it, but I still have a 100 natural special defense stat. So I have good natural special defense bulk there on the Muck. And then I have full investment in a 105 HP stat. So I'm in a really good position to survive whatever Coco's trying to do under most circumstances. It goes for the Thunderbolt, doesn't KO. Poison Jab does pretty much enough to one hit KO, and then the Toxic gets it again. So I'm getting a lot of fortune with those Toxic activations. That one didn't matter because I had Shadow Sneak, so I wasn't really concerned about it. The one on Zapdos was the really meaningful one, and then Zarude obviously helped some, but just taking away its Choice Scarf was enough for me to be content. And then I'm more than happy to throw Muck away at this stage in the game. I've done a ton of damage with it, broken things. At this stage, there's a lot of ways I could go to clean out this game. I could just come in with Diancie and come in and click Earth Power, but Diancie's done a lot of work all season. A regular theme that you probably heard from me is how useless this Dragapult has been for me, and I'm just dying to try to do something productive with it because it was my first overall pick. I've been wanting to use Dragapult in a draft format for a very long time, and I just not have not gotten a lot of utility out of it this season. So I more or less forced it in here just so I can try to generate something because at this stage in the game, I'm pretty confident I have full control. A knockoff set would be annoying um, on the Toxapex, but otherwise I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to click Thunder Wave, get it paralyzed. It's going to recover. I'm going to get more health back, and then I'm going to sub because I don't think it has knockoff, and it doesn't. So it's not even able to break my sub in one go. I'm just going to start spamming Hex because that has no other options but to attack my sub. And then now I'm just going to spam Hex again because there's no reason to sub anymore. I click Hex, they attack, they're in range to die to the next Hex. I keep clicking Hex, and they keep clicking recover. Eventually they get paralyzed enough and I win. So I'm just going to keep spamming Hex until I win at this point. Crit was nice, doesn't make a difference. I was always in a point to 2-hit KO from that range. So Dracopult gets to come in, click Hex, get a KO. Dracopult's second KO of the season. He saw 5 turns of action, which brings his overall total of turns up to 12 for the season. Really excited for Dragapult. Second consecutive week, Diancie doesn't come out of the Pokeball. A good problem overall to have. Obviously, I would like to get more out of my sweepers because they are the pieces I want to make sure my opponents are over prepping for week to week. And so that things like Muck and Rotom Heat, which ended up getting pretty much all the kills, they went down, but they did so much damage this game just because they weren't given enough credit for their ability to do damage and just shut down some of the offense. And so they did incredible work this week that just made it really easy for Diancie to stay in the Pokeball. And then Dragapult got to have a little bit of fun at the end. But overall, another solid performance from this team. I moved to 7-1, a positive 30 differential. I will be playing my week 9 match, which seems like it will still be relevant as I'm not expecting the number 2 seed to lose, so I will probably need to play and win in week 9 to secure the number 1 overall seed as we have the same records right now. I just have better differential. And so I'm going to probably be bringing a decent amount of prep into that last match just because I want to put myself in as good of a playoff position as possible. And so I will be back next week for that week 9 finale. Stay tuned.